Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Keith, and welcome to my preview of the Edmonton Eskimos, the 2015 Western Division champions. Now, first, I want to get it out in the open and off my chest. Just because I'm wearing this jersey, I don't want you to think that I don't like the Edmonton Eskimos. Quite frankly, I've got a lot of respect for them. And at putting it on the table, I used to be a season ticket holder to the Edmonton Eskimos. I've talked about this in my blogs before. Essentially, in the 2010 season when Edmonton was hosting the Grey Cup, I wanted to get great Grey Cup seats, so I became a season ticket holder. My seats ended up being 2 rows behind the bench on approximately the 50-yard line, and it was great. You learn a lot about a team by how they treat their fans and their season ticket holders, and I have to say, they treated me pretty great. Kept me in the loop with what was going on, and I felt like I was very much part of that Edmonton culture. But besides being a part of, or being a past season ticket holder, I've got a lot of respect for Edmonton, and how can you not? If the Edmonton Oilers were a dynasty in the NHL, the Edmonton Eskimos were pretty much the same thing in the CFL, winning 6 Grey Cups in a row in the 70s and 80s. On top of that, they are the second most winningest team in the Grey Cup next to the Toronto Argonauts. The team is rich with history. You can't think of the Edmonton Eskimos and not think of greats like Warren Moon, who have donned the green and yellow. On top of that, when I first had the opportunity of going to Edmonton, the 2 things that I wanted to do was I wanted to go to West Edmonton Mall, and I wanted to go to Commonwealth Stadium. Walking into Commonwealth Stadium was like walking into like some sort of cathedral. When you walk onto that field, it's like you're walking onto the hallowed halls of the CFL. So many miraculous things have happened on that field. So many great games have been played there, whether they be regular season Eskimo games or Grey Cup championship games. And there's just something exciting about being at Commonwealth. It's honestly one of the best places to see a game in the CFL, just from the history alone. Now, as we are here in the 2015 season, and you look at the Edmonton Eskimos, and they've just emerged as such a dominant team. 14 wins, 4 losses. And the 4 losses that they had, you have to keep in consideration that their current quarterback, Mike Riley, didn't factor into those. Matt Nichols was the starting quarterback at the time of the majority of their losses, so it's very difficult to sit back and find a chink in the Edmonton armor. If Ottawa has the best receiving core in the CFL, then you have to think that Edmonton's isn't that far off. With weapons like Walker and Bowman, it's very difficult to think to yourself, who are you going to cover? Mike Riley is not just one of the best dressed players in the CFL, he's also proven to be a very effective quarterback. He was a backup quarterback with the BC Lions, and let's be honest, there's no team that breeds quarterbacks like the BC Lions. And after getting a Grey Cup ring with the BC Lions, albeit in a backup role, he's emerged as quite an effective starter. He might not have the stats that Henry Burris does this year, but his team is still winning games. Then you look at the special teams. Shaun White is a fantastic kicker, also former BC Lion. And again, you think to yourself, okay, well, here's somebody who got a lot of tutoring from Paul McCallum, somebody who has definitely earned his stripes in the CFL. So it's really difficult to find where the weakness in the Edmonton Eskimos is. One thing I did notice last week when they were playing in the Western Final against Calgary is, and this might not necessarily be a huge weakness, but they seem to take their foot off the gas a little too early. I remember back in the day when Tiger Woods was just starting out and winning championships, he absolutely obliterated the competition at his first Masters title. And they said to him, Tiger, why did you keep going on so strong? It was clear that you'd won. And he said, it's like my dad always used to say, when you got your opponents down, stomp on them. Now, I don't necessarily know what happened last week with Edmonton and Calgary. And yes, if you look at the score, you'll see that Edmonton won decisively. But Calgary was coming back. So I don't necessarily know what happened with Edmonton, but perhaps one chink in their armor is they might not have that stomp on a mentality. So everybody seems to think, I shouldn't say everybody, but a lot of people seem to think that Edmonton's going to win the Grey Cup, and they very well might. They've won 9 games in a row, counting their playoff game. Their last loss came Labor Day in Calgary, where they lost a game 16-7. Before that, I believe their previous losses were against Hamilton, or against Hamilton. It was a pretty, Hamilton and BC, and it was a pretty big loss against Hamilton. But again, Mike Riley wasn't the quarterback. So I think some of the things to look for is how will Mike Riley perform in the big game? This is going to be his first Grey Cup starting. So it'll be very interesting to see how he handles himself. From a defensive perspective, well, no team allowed fewer points than the Edmonton Eskimos. So their defense is pretty strong as well. Again, very difficult to find where the weakness of the Edmonton Eskimos is. But every team has a weakness. So what do you think? Do you think the Edmonton Eskimos have what it takes to pull off winning the Grey Cup this year? I'll be perfectly honest and tell you that I think it's going to be a very, very strong opponent for the Ottawa Redblacks to be playing. But like I've said in a previous blog, I think they match up very well against Edmonton. I'd love to hear what you have to say. CFL_fan on Twitter, Facebook.com/WhittyWhittier, WhittyWhittier.com. Feel free to reach out to me and let me know, and I'd love to hear from you. And until then, that's my view from the 40.